My guest today is a writer, publisher, and historian. He has produced 3 volumes of The Toys That Time Forgot, cataloging Toys That Time Forgot. As the publisher and editor-in-chief of Toycollectr magazine, he's the driving force behind the return of a print toy magazine to your mailbox and now on sale at your local Barnes & Noble. Welcome to the Secret Lounge, Blake Wright.
Hey, how's it going, Dan?
Very well, Blake, very well. Thank you very, very much for joining us here today on the show. Excited to have you kick off a series on people who are going to be at PowerCon later this summer in August. You know, I should have grabbed the dates. I don't have the dates offhand, but
yeah,
I think it's the third weekend in August.
It's earlier than that.
Second. Oh, you know what it is? It's my mom's birthday weekend. That's what it is. It's the 15th or something.
Yeah, maybe so.
It
11,
is
I think maybe 11 through 13.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Because her birthday is Monday the 14th. So that's the day I fly back. But great to have you here. And what I wanted to get into right up front was talking specifically about Toycollectr magazine, because it has been, you've been publishing Toycollectr for 5 issues now, starting in September of 2022. So not quite a year, but you know, every other month for 6 months now, 5 months now. And issue 5 is in stores now and in mailboxes now, I should say. And issue 6 is coming soon. You were just saying in the pre-show here that you just wrapped issue 6, right?
Yep, sent it to the printer this morning.
Excellent. It's got exclusive reveals of new product, insight, commentary, and history from people who are in the industry at different levels, different perspectives. You write stuff, I write stuff, Pixel Dan, Dave Vonner, Jason Geyer, Daniel Pickett, Stephen Ward, others. There was an exclusive figure offer, news, reviews, and more. Because I still do, every time I post a picture or I talk about it, I still have people saying, what is this? This is a thing, it exists. Yeah. Is that something you're still finding from people?
Sure. Yeah. I called 2023 my year of visibility. I need more people to know this thing exists. And there's a lot of people who are very involved in the toy industry, even on the collector and action figure side, who still don't know. And it's just, you know, it's kind of things. Well, what do you do? How do you get it out there to market? You know, I need a publication like Toycollectr to advertise in.
Yeah, right. Where do you take out an ad to advertise that magazine?
So it's difficult, but we've been doing a lot of shows in person this year. We did Toyland in March. We did a show every weekend. We did Toylanta in Atlanta in March. That was a really good show for us. We're doing in June is a complete nightmare. I'm spending the first 8 days in Belize celebrating my 20th wedding anniversary with my wife.
Congratulations.
I get back on Thursday, the 8th. Friday at lunch, I fly to Atlanta to then drive to Augusta for Joe Fest.
Okay. Yep.
That weekend. Come back Sunday night, go to work Monday, but then skip out an hour early to get back to the airport Monday night to fly to Las Vegas for the licensing show.
Oh, boy.
I'm doing 3 days there and then back. So before I know it, half of June's gone.
Yeah, yeah. So you're trying to engage readers literally where they live.
yeah. I mean, we're really trying to figure out a way to, you know, get this in front of as many eyes as possible. That was part of the whole Barnes & Noble thing. I didn't really expect to maybe sell a ton of magazines out of Barnes & Noble, but you know, when the casual eye can glance over and say, "Hey, ooh, what's that?" You know.
Yeah. So let's start at the beginning here. Talk to me about the decision. When and how did you make the decision to try to bring a print magazine back?
Yeah. After I wrapped volume 3 of Toys That Time Forgot, I was, you know, started looking around for like, okay, Blake, what do you do next? Because I'm always got some kind of side thing going on. It's just my nature. I had done an online magazine back in 2014 called Little Plastic Men. I did it for 4 issues. It was a quarterly. Successful editorially, not successful economically. Couldn't figure out a way to. I really didn't want people to have to pay for it, but nobody wanted to advertise in it. So it was really a lost cause.
So is that where you come from, or do you come from print media?
Well, I mean, my day job, I've been a journalist covering the energy industry for almost 30 years now.
Okay.
Here in Texas. So I've been a bureau chief at a newspaper. I've been, a technology writer for a magazine, which I am right now. I've done a lot of different roles, and I've always kind of liked long form stories. The internet is a horrible place to want to read long form stories.
Yeah.
But magazines are actually a nice place to do it. So when it came down to like I said, after volume 3, I tackled those books because I wanted those books to exist. Kind of a selfish reason, but it was the reason. And when I started looking around, and I was at a Barnes and Noble and at the newsstand and looking, and there were 6 titles on marijuana. There were 5 titles on quilting. There was 3 titles on model trains. There's 4 titles on diecast. So there was collector oriented stuff there, but nothing for the general toy and action figure guy.
Yeah.
We lost the last one of those back in 2014. So it's almost been 10 years since we've had one. And, rightfully so, the internet ran them out of business because the model that they had was breaking news.
And what do you do about that? That is just the progression of technology, and you can't break news in paper anymore. And right. Even if you do, it's immediately on the internet anyway.
Yeah. So my idea was, okay, if I brought something like that back, that couldn't be that of course couldn't be the way I went about it. But if I took the book model in a way and said, let me tell you a story you've never heard before. Let me show you a picture you've never seen before. And to be able to do that with toys we all got to play with as kids instead of stuff that was, unproduced, like what the books concentrate on. I was like, well, maybe that would work if you could find a large enough audience for that. And at the same time, be able to leverage the contacts that I had in the business to be able to, negotiate an exclusive reveal or 2 or several, if I can, however you can manage it. So I went on a trip to LA, I guess it was 2 years ago now, December, with a mock-up, kind of a, I forgot what I called it, but it was a mock-up of what the magazine could be.
Yeah.
And I went and visited Playmates and Super 7 and anybody who'd let me in, basically, who was attached to the toy business, put that in front of them and said, is this idiotic, or is this the time that this needs to come back? And everybody I visited was very excited about the prospect. Not only that, of the 5 companies that I visited on that first trip, every last one of them signed on as an advertiser in the room, at least awesome. Verbally. So that was a kind of a, light going off in my head saying, okay, there's something to this then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I came home and, of course, went over to the wife and said, I'm going to do this. Is this okay? And she's actually wonderful. She tolerates all of this stuff and actually enjoys participating to a degree.
Excellent. Excellent.
That's why she's credited as an editor in the magazine. She reads this stuff. Yeah, I mean, and that kind of kicked it all off. And
it's funny. This issue 5 is the first issue, and I think May 16th maybe was the actual street date for this first issue to be in Barnes & Noble and Barnes & Noble affiliated sellers. I happened to be in Burlington, Mass yesterday, and there's a Barnes & Noble right across from the Burlington Mall. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to pop in and see if they have it there. And, two observations. One, they didn't have it. So either they sold through all their copies, hopefully, or they just didn't have it out. They didn't get their particular, batch of copies or whatever. But like what you were saying earlier, I hadn't looked at the actual magazine rack at a physical bookseller like Barnes & Noble in years. So I didn't even really know what was still out there. The idea that the idea that it was in any genre that it was still a viable thing is surprising to me in 2023. So to see, 10 different hobby railroad things, 15 magazines about guns, 3 different magazines about airplanes, the whole end cap is just like whatever superhero thing is going on right now. And the other end cap is all Harry Styles, So, so clearly, they do get magazines every month, and there still is some kind of an audience there for it. So it did occur to me that toy collecting in particular, there's something about that tangibility of the physical object, right? Like we collect physical things.
And that actually went into the thought process quite a bit. If I could because when I did the books, I wanted to make them of a quality to where it would be something you would want to have in your collection. Same thing went into the magazines. I wanted to make them nice enough, presentable to where you just wouldn't, buy it. And then, it's not like Entertainment Weekly where you throw it in the trash after you read it, or it goes in the bathroom, for months on end. I wanted you to be able to have it and then put it on your shelf when you're done with it, and actually use it as a resource if you wanted to go back and pull off. Oh, there was that Barnyard Commando story. I wanted to read that again, or something like that.
Yeah, and that's why I have personally appreciated it for is that you have put content in it. You have put, I don't like using the word content. It just flows naturally now, unfortunately. You've put things in it that you aren't going to get anywhere else. You aren't going to get these sort of in-depth stories. Barnyard Commandos, you've had stories in there about, I have my whole stack sitting right here next to me. But it's that kind of information that you're not going to get anywhere from the people who worked on it, or from the people who have that kind of insight into it, about those different lines. The issue 1 had the story about the gargoyles and the new that particular cover feature from NECA, and that's one of those things I've always loved. And as someone who's producing history related content that I don't always have access to, sketches and the thought process and the people who actually developed those things, that's something that's actually in the magazine here. So to what degree are you actually working with the companies? Like, what kind of lead time do you have? If you're doing a story with NECA, is that something where you're able to just email them directly and say, hey, what can you give me for this particular thing that we're writing about?
Yeah, it's if I'm working on a story for the actual next magazine that's going to be out. I mean, sometimes I'm working on stories 2-3 magazines ahead. You just have to. And since when I'm dealing with a lot of the things that are talking about items from the past, those stories don't really change. So you can do that to a degree. I mean, right now I've already done one interview for a main feature that's going to be in 7. I did that last week, but I've got a couple of other interviews that are going to have to go into that. Actually may end up being the cover story, although I'm not 100% sure, because that would break my streak of reveals on the covers if I did it that way. But it's a big enough story to where I could do it. So yeah, I'm working on stories all the time. And sometimes you get information on something, so that story rises up. This one goes down because you're late getting that information, and it just cream rises to the top kind of thing.
What are some of the barriers that you ran into? Print, while it does still exist and while it is still a thing, the mechanisms aren't necessarily in place the way they used to be. Did you to any degree have to sort of reinvent the process, or did you find that technology has enabled you to do it as a smaller team than maybe 10 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing about I went into this with the idea is like the only way that this would ever work is if I had low to no overhead. And I was not only a subscription based, but an advertising based. It had to be both. I couldn't just do advertising and give it away for free. I couldn't, or the opposite. You wouldn't do the opposite, but you couldn't do that model, which a lot of magazines have done in the past. The only way it was going to work is it was going to have to be the price it is, unfortunately, a little higher than I wanted it to be, but that was how this was going to work. So once I got through with that sort of, okay, if I can find the right pieces and I can keep the costs down and find enough advertising dollars to come in, then I won't go into debt doing this. It will pay for itself, which so far, not, I'm not going to lay out my financials, but it's, would I like it to be doing better? Yes.
Of course.
Is it doing horrible? No. So we're kind of, we've been on cruise control for a little bit. The next big thing that's going to happen is I'm going to have subscriber turnover here pretty quick, because we're going into volume 2. So it'll be interesting to see how many people
re-up,
from the initial, group re-up. Hopefully every last one of them, but
I
can guarantee you that's not going to happen.
Have you, I assume obviously part of the calculus of this whole thing is, what is the benefit of hiring someone whose job it is specifically to handle all the advertising and solicitation of subscriptions and all of those things? Because it sounds like you're wearing almost all of the hats right now.
Yeah, almost all. There was a period of about 5 months where Holly did do that for me, took over the commercial side early on. But at the end of the day, her in the workforce bringing her own money in outweighed what we could do together on Toycollectr. So I said, okay, just go back and do your own thing, and I'll take it all on, and we'll just move forward. Can I get to that point, man? Dan, I hope so. But right now we're not there.
Yeah. It's fascinating to me because it's something that I always wanted to have back, but it's hard to separate my personal nostalgia for something like that, and that is, I feel like, the conversation that I keep having with people. It's like comparing it to Toy Fair magazine specifically, because Toy Fair magazine was such a watershed sort of moment for the toy collecting community. There had been other magazines. And there were other magazines still being sold while Toy Fair was being sold. But that one's just sort of tapped into that, sensibility of collectors at the time, had lots of, all the photos. I can still remember where I was, when certain things were revealed, Toy Biz Resident Evil and Power of the Force 2 stuff. I had that magazine in my hand every day when I would go to class in college, and so I think a lot of people still think of that very fondly. And I think that if they find out about a magazine like this, and like you said, it's really just about increasing visibility and increasing awareness of it, to just let people know that it's out there, and hopefully that those two curves of how long the magazine can go on at current versus people finding it. Hopefully we find that perfect spot, bring the two together.
Yeah, it's like I said, this year was important for me to be able to get out and get in front of people, and not only potential subscribers, but additional advertisers. I mean, there are more companies out there that could and could possibly benefit from advertising in the magazine, and I want to be able to offer. I mean, when I went out, I was it was vaporware. I mean, at least I had a reputation, but I couldn't show them anything. Couldn't show you numbers. Couldn't show, I have 0 subscribers. I have 0 advertising dollars. I have 0 distribution. Give me money. And that's a tough sell, no matter what you're doing.
So I want to take a step back for a second here and talk about your Kickstarter experience, and the Toys Time Forgot. You said earlier that it was something that you were just compelled to do for yourself. This was a book you wanted to create for you. Right. It was your curiosity about these things and your interest in those things. How was your Kickstarter experience in general? You obviously got multiple books done through that program.
Yeah. The first one was just awful.
It's a big learning curve, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. Well, number one, we didn't fund till the last day with the first one. So it was just nerve wracking as all get out. It was, we had, I explained Kickstarter as 48 hours of elation, 27 days of absolutely nothing, and then 24 hours of frenetic. That's the way they normally tap out. If they, but the first one was, there was so much learning that you could probably only learn going through the process, logistics. And I mean, I've harped on international shipping for I don't know how long. I lost a ton of money shipping that book internationally.
That should be the like tagline on Kickstarter for book projects, for comic projects. Quote, I lost a ton of money on international shipping. I've not seen a book project yet that didn't get burned in some way. Yeah.
So we did, because I mean, and this is on me. it's not on Kickstarter. It's on me. We put out there, we put that book out there, and we said, we'll send it anywhere in the world for $18. And I couldn't send that book to Canada for $18.
Yeah.
Let alone Australia.
Is it the size of the book that made the difference? Because it's not a very heavy book.
Yeah, it's 4 pounds in the box.
Okay.
So once you get it, because you couldn't ship it in a padded envelope, you destroy too many of them.
Right.
It had to be in a box. So once you start doing the tabulations and everything, it got way out of hand. From England east, the book cost as much to ship it that way as the book cost for you to buy.
Oh man.
I mean, it was like, it was like $60 for the book and $65 to ship it.
Yeah.
People would yell at me about the cost. And I was like, find me a cheaper way. Please find me a cheaper way. And they shut up because they couldn't.
Yeah.
So I would not be excited about doing another book project on Kickstarter. Especially after the third one. The third one was COVID, and that was tough.
Yeah.
It was delayed by a year. I wrote the book during COVID, so I couldn't visit anybody like I did for the first 2 books. I had people mailing me prototypes through USPS, and it was a scary thing. Fortunately, all that worked out. But if I had my druthers, I would rather travel and sit with the people where they're comfortable and and can get the story face to face. But there was a lot of this kind of Zoomy meetings and stuff, and but the project got done, and it's personally my favorite of the 3 books, just because there's some really wacky stuff in there.
And for anybody who's not familiar with the books, they're essentially the story of toy lines that were never produced. I can't remember exactly which books the particular stories appear in, but things you've covered. Dark Crystal is in there.
Yeah, Dark Crystal's in volume 1. So it's stuff that either never happened or never got to store shelves, or line extensions to lines that we all know that never made it out because the cartoon got canceled or the movie flopped or whatever. So
you've got pictures and notes and the original sketches and stories directly from the people who were working on these things. And also, all 3 books are currently in stock, available to ship at Big Bad Toy Store.
They are at Big Bad Toy Store, and the Cell Store has them too. And I still have some if you want to just get them direct through me.
Do you still bring them to shows?
Oh yeah. I'll have. I mean, that's why at PowerCon last year I felt like such a schlub. I was the one guy who had nothing to sell.
Oh no.
It was about a month before the magazine came out, so I didn't have it. All the books were still caught up in containers trying to come over. So I didn't actually get those until December. So I was selling promises at PowerCon. I felt terrible, but not going to make that mistake this year, man. I'm coming loaded for bear.
Hey, all I had were pins and the prints that the show had produced for me. Like if they hadn't given, set me up with prints to sell, I just would have been standing there with my pins and your cards. So, hey, buy a pin for $10. Also, go check out Blake. He's over there.
Blake.
2 aisles over. I too am hoping to bring a lot more stuff this year. So
no, I'll have every issue, all the back issues of Toycollectr and all 3 books.
Oh, okay, cool. You'll actually be selling Toycollectr on site.
Yeah. Want to be able to. What I've been doing at shows is doing a little deal to where if you sign up, if you subscribe on the spot, I'll catch you up for $10 a magazine. Or,
Nice.
That sort of thing.
Good deal. Yeah.
Yeah. So, because I got one of the weirdest subscribers interactions that I had was a guy paid for his subscription, but it was a couple of days after one had shipped. So it was his was going to start with 2, because once the mass shipping happens, it flips,
Yeah.
And you go to, and he freaked out. The guy, he called me and he was like, if I can't have all of them, I don't want any of them. And I'm like, I'm not preventing you from getting one. One is still available. Oops, I'm spilled. Yep. And one is still available as a back issue. And he just, for some reason, couldn't grasp that whole concept. And
do you need to take a minute there and clean up your desk?
It's very strange. It's not on anything in electrical, so I think we're good.
Okay. Because I can have Greg cut all this out. I don't want you to lose your keyboard.
Yeah, no, it's just scotch. We're fine.
Okay. Maybe it'll clean some stuff up. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? No, I don't drink.
Well, I'll ask you a question while you're
sure
down on the desk there. Would you recommend Kickstarter for other people exploring projects?
Depends on the project.
Yeah.
Depends on where they are. And who they are. For a known commodity, sure. If you're coming out of nowhere, hard, unless you do about a year's worth of pre-Kickstarter activity. It's kind of like Patreon. People go to Patreon and try to build an audience through Patreon, and that's not what Patreon is about. Patreon is about monetizing the audience you already have. So I've seen a lot of people at least early on with Patreon, make that mistake. It's like, hey, I'm here. Who are you? Yeah,
you can't. Exclusivity right off the bat is hard to do.
Yeah.
You need to give a lot away before you can ask somebody to start giving you money, especially on a regular basis. Right. It's tough.
Yeah.
And even at that, even we, struggled. We had a pretty large audience, when we started our Patreon, but we definitely struggled to bring people over, right. to show that there was value and that there was a reason to give us money on something like that. And yeah, I definitely see people make that mistake on Kickstarter where it's like, well, this is a neat thing you're doing, but you didn't do the work yet to build an audience that's going to come over and support you. Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where I'm actually trying to put together a comic book project right now, just as a totally separate thing.
Well, that was my next question. If you had any other projects that, or if Toycollectr was all you could focus on right now.
Well, Toycollectr, don't get me wrong. Toycollectr is a full-time job, but it's not my full-time job. So, do the math. There needs to be more than one of me because I hope that when you look at Toycollectr, you think that there's a big team of people that work on this, 24/7. Or at least 7 days a week, 4 weeks a month or whatever. But because I want it to look like that. But at the end of the day, it is a small team. It is me and a couple of my wife who proofreads. I have another editor who proofreads, and then you guys. You and Dan and Dan and Dan and Dan, all the Dans. That's one of the things people I get emails all the time saying, hey, I'd like to write for, Toycollectr. It's like, well, sorry, Phil, if your name's not Dan.
We're only taking Dan's.
Yeah, just taking Dan's here. But as far as other projects, the one thing that I've been trying to do for a while is I have a comic book. Well, it's just an IP property that I've been trying to make into something for about, what's this year? 15 years, 16 years. Back when it was a few years ago, right before COVID, when animation got really hot. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then during COVID, when it got hotter, because that was the one thing people could do from their houses.
Yeah.
all these streamers were looking for animation. They were hungry for it. They were actually taking pitches from people they wouldn't normally take pitches from, which gave me an opportunity. Is like, hey, let's go dust this whole thing off and make it an animated show. So I started working on that actually. But by the time I figured out, that I was probably about a year behind the curve. I should have started. If I would have started it earlier, I may have had a fighting chance actually getting heard.
Right.
But I couldn't mature it in time. But I've had some meetings with some folks since then, and I've shown it to them, and and this is people in the business who've said, create something with this, make a comic book, make a graphic novel, do something,
build your audience.
Yeah. And build your audience. And then, so when, someone shows interest, you have something to slide across the table. Right. So I've been working on that kind of off and on, trying to get, I think it's just going to be a comic book because again, graphic novel is, you won't make any money doing that. But as a comic book, maybe we'll make a little bit, or at least have it pay for itself.
Yeah. You can get a healthy pitch at 12, 15, 22 pages. You don't have to go for the whole 300 page omnibus.
Yeah, exactly. So I have a somewhere. I don't know where it's at now, but
I have a whole file cabinet full of characters and concepts and stuff that I've been working on for years.
Somewhere back there is a script and a hand sketched actual comic book. And now it's just trying to find I've been trying to find the right artist to work with for quite a while, and I've talked to some fairly interesting folks, and but it's just finding the time for them to be able to do it. But it's called Moon Man Zero, if anybody cares. There is actually on YouTube, if you go search Moon Man Zero, a 3.5 minute animatic will come up. That's like a teaser trailer to a bigger show. If this thing was a show, we did that during COVID as well. I hooked up with a storyboard artist who worked on Rick and Morty and a few other shows. And he was a lot of these guys. I don't know if you know how that works, but those guys just jump from show to show. They don't have I work for this studio or whatever, and this is all I do. They just leap from show to show.
And I don't blame them. Yeah, there's no loyalty on either end these days. So get the job you can get when you can get it.
Right. So this is a 6-month gig. You're always trying to find. So you may be off for a few months trying to find your next gig. So this guy was between gigs, and I made it. I made a pitch, and he said, "Yeah, let's do this." And so, paid him his thing. Paid his fee, and then we put it together, and it was a lot of fun. And if it was, I said, if this is the only time I ever see these characters in motion, I will have appreciated the exercise because
you got the value at least out of what you put into it.
I had a blast putting it together. So, yeah, there's maybe there's something there, maybe not. But I'd be tickled if we could even get a comic book off the ground. That would be really fun.
You think you'd go through Kickstarter?
Yeah, it's one of those things.
It's so tempting. It's right there,
Yeah, it is right there. And you're just like, well, and plus, again, Toys of Time Forgot Blake Wright probably wouldn't have a chance.
Right.
But this version of Blake, who has every time promised and delivered something.
Exactly.
Maybe has a chance.
I have. That's one of my main criteria for whether or not I'll back a Kickstarter is what is the experience level of the people on board here. Too many people treat Kickstarter like it's just an advanced pre-order system, and it's like no, you're investing in a business. And the product might not get delivered, so you need to do your due diligence on your end to make sure that you are confident and trust the people that you're investing in. And if it's a brand new company, if it's somebody that I've never seen deliver a product before, I am not putting a lot of money into that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I've seen a lot. Fortunately, I was big into investing in Kickstarters really early on, and I only got burned once. So I was very very fortunate, because I know some people that got taken down quite a bit.
I've been a part of two toy Kickstarters that never delivered, and watched people make the mistake of supporting the creator of one of them. What's that?
Then they would support them again.
Yeah. Without having delivered the first one. And I'm just like, what are you people doing? It is very clearly that they are trying to fundraise either for the first one, or they got you on the first one and now they're trying to get you on another one.
Yeah, that's too bad.
And it is too bad. It hurts everybody who wants to follow that path. It reduces the amount of trust coming from people who otherwise might have actually been, able to give you the money to make this dream come true, to get your product and your business off the ground. And now you're going to get them for one figure instead of an all in,
And hey, action figure Kickstarters are all the rage again. So we had a lull there for a while, and now boom, boy, they're back big time.
Yeah, it's tough. Between HasLabs and other crowdfunding projects and Kickstarters and stuff, and then just general pre-orders. It's tough. And as a collector, I have had to put a lot of my own rules in place to protect me and my wallet as far as how all this stuff happens. And that's the thing. Kickstarters, it's like, I need to know who you are and what your resume is, what you've delivered. Do you have people on board as part of your team that have delivered in the past? And even still, probably only going in for one figure, and it's only going to be whatever the exclusive is. That's it. And that keeps me safe. Yeah. So back to Toycollectr. Obviously, the ultimate plan would be to get it into as many stores as possible. What other possible outlets are there? Like, I know Walmart has like a periodical section.
Yeah. It's hard to know exactly. I mean, I'm working with a distribution house that feeds a lot of different end users, let's say. Barnes and Noble and Books A Million were the two most I don't want to say easy, but they were the ones that they're kind of like the old Toys R Us. That we'll buy anything, just bring it.
Yeah.
So
are they different businesses?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay. I saw your pictures on Instagram and probably Twitter too that had both Books A Million and Barnes and Noble, and I just assumed it was like these are two different names for the same business.
No, they're two different. They're two different businesses.
Huh, okay. I'll have to go check my Books A Million now.
Yeah, because we haven't. I've got one not too far from here too, so I haven't checked it. I did check. I did go buy a copy at Barnes and Noble. I just had to. It was just a feel-good moment of one of the feel-good moments of your life, right?
Yeah. Somebody on Instagram asked me like, what's the main difference between Toy Fair magazine and Toycollectr? And my response was, well, I was a subscriber of Toy Fair magazine, just a subscriber and a reader, and now I write for Toycollectr. So it is. It's it's one of those. It was an aspiration thing for me, and I had to go see it on the shelf.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, people who want to compare it to Toy Fair, it's really unfair. I mean, Toy Fair was really a laugh a page kind of thing. That's not us. We kind of keep the humor. I mean, there are some humorous things about Toycollectr. There's that expanded part of the news section called "Take Our Money." That's kind of the old incoming that Toy Fair had about showing you new stuff. So we try to. There's some humor in there. There's some humor in our reviews and that sort of thing. But it just those guys. I mean, that was a writer's room that Toy Fair had, and we just don't have that same dynamic.
Yeah, and that's the sort of response that I've given people is like, the kind of resources, the funding, is not the same. The built-in circulation, because Toy Fair just stepped into Wizard Magazine's circulation. Yeah. And you just didn't. You don't have that kind of circulation right out of the gate. This is something that has to be built up from scratch. So yeah, I can't. Other than saying it's a toy magazine, just try to leave your expectations at the door and come enjoy this for what it is.
So as far as other stores, I mean, there are. I wouldn't mind trying to get it into some of the airport stores
Oh,
that you
yeah,
see.
yeah.
There's a lot of, I mean, I can't remember what they're called, like has somebody brothers. I don't know. There's a
Yeah.
lot of these little
Hudson News, is that
Hudson
one?
News. Hudson News is one of them. Yeah. So there's a lot of these little airport stores like that I think Toycollectr would be awesome to be in.
Yeah, that's like, you know, you're in a desert and you're selling water. Like you're
Right.
trapped in an airplane, you're in an airport. You know, I know everybody's got Wi-Fi and everything now, but it's like that's prime. Yeah.
So that's one. There are a few other like independent places I wouldn't mind being. I mean, there's a lot of these little toy museums have popped up. There's one here in Houston now. They have gift shops. You know, I would like to be able to have placement there, even for the books.
Are you in Diamond?
Diamond does distribute, so comic shops can go through and order it through previews. That was the first distributor that we had. So, you know, there's how many more outlets are there? I don't really know. I mean, there are a few. I don't ever see it getting into grocery stores because grocery stores gave up on magazines a long time ago, unless it's the Inquirer or, you know, that sort of thing. That's sort of
right. You need millions of subscribers before they're going to put you next to the register.
Right. So that's not happening. But the real function, to me anyway, of getting into a place like Barnes & Noble or Books A Million or Hudson News or whatever, isn't that you'll keep going back and buying the thing off the rack. I want you to subscribe.
Right.
So, I mean, subscription is going to save you money and it's going to deliver the magazine straight to your door. So, you know, at the end of the day, I was talking to Brian Flynn at Super 7 during the early times of putting this together. And, you know, Super 7 used to be a magazine. So that's, you know, it was handy to have his knowledge. And when he said, get into Barnes & Noble, that's great. Don't ever look for any money to come out of that. Because think of it as like you just drop in a business card where a lot of people can see it.
Yeah.
The whole inner workings of how magazine producers get paid by stores and it's really convoluted. It seems like a very archaic way to go about things. But again, kind of an archaic business. By definition.
Even with monthly magazines and Toycollectr is every other month.
Right.
Even with monthly magazines, there's got to just be so much. The turnover on the product on the shelf is just moving so fast, and I don't even know what the model is anymore. If it's a send it back, if it's a destroy it, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think it's a destroy it. But they used to, you know, rip the covers off of books and, you know, do that kind of thing. That's
why those Silver Age, Golden Age books are so rare.
Yeah. You send those to schools or something.
Just do something with them. Yeah. And so thinking out into future issues, you said that you had already, you know, got stuff for issue 7 and ideas down for issue 8. Are there more features? Are there more kinds of, I'm trying to say here, like different kinds of features that you're looking into, different ways of presenting material, or is that going to sort of depend on the contributor and the person that's writing the piece?
Yeah, it depends. You know, I would like to be able to, you know, swap things. I'm kind of, you know, still, we're almost a year old now, but I'm still kind of in the feeling out phase of what people really want to see. You know,
that's my next question. Have you solicited ideas from readers?
So I haven't directly, but I get them.
Yeah.
So, you know, when we did the 5-part Fear and Toy Hunting in LA thing that was in the first 5 issues, you know, I didn't know if people would really understand what we were doing, B, even be interested in something like that. And it was so funny because I got the most feedback on that particular series, and it was almost equal. This is the most awesome thing I've ever read to I don't know what this is. So it was like some people we just flew right by. Other people were like, this is awesome. So, you know, will we do something like that again? Maybe. It depends on what it is. I'm really kind of getting interested into leaning into things inside of some of the larger companies. One of the things I've wanted to do, and I've pitched a couple of times, is I want to go through the modern equivalent of how to make an action figure. Taking something like from, let's just say, Mattel Masterverse, and starting at the drawing, and taking you all the way to the peg in today's terms. Because you've seen stuff like that in the past, how but how do you do it today?
Yeah.
How does that figure? How does the process happen? And maybe that, if anyone ever agrees to let me do that, maybe that's one of those 3 or 4 parters that goes across a different kind of magazine, different issues of the magazine.
I honestly, I think Boss Fight would be a great place to start with that. Hasbro's one thing, Mattel's one thing, Playmates is one thing, but if it was like Boss Fight or NECA or Super 7, any of these people that like already have that big corporate experience,
right,
but are still doing it at a a smaller level, that might be a great place to start on that.
And so there was there's things like that. There's I've talked to other folks about going into having access to their archives, maybe doing a historical dive into some things that, again, people wouldn't ordinarily get to see. It's some companies didn't really keep very good records or archives.
Right.
Hasbro actually did do a fairly good job of keeping something. Then there is something called the Hasbro Vault that I would very much like to see in person, and bring that to the readers. I think that would be something that would be pretty interesting. Now, is this pie in the sky stuff? Don't know. You got to ask, right? So, I at the same time, what you've seen so far from us is kind of these features that of toy lines that have a life now, but had a life then.
Right.
We kind of timeline it back, So the Gargoyles thing was NECA and Kenner, and the Barnyard Commandos was Playmates and Premium DNA, and then so that sort of thing. You just go back and those have been really fun, and I think a lot of people have enjoyed those. And it's not like there's any shortage of that stuff that has lives now that had life then.
Sure.
So, maybe we keep doing those maybe rotate those in and out with other things. I love talking to sculptors and creators. We did a thing with Phil Ramirez a couple of issues ago. This issue that number 6 has a sculptor interview in it. That'll be coming out in June. And that's the other thing I had to get used to. When I wasn't selling into Barnes & Noble, my timeline could be a little more fluid.
Right.
Can't do that anymore.
Yeah, it's a hard deadline.
Yeah, so I have to, literally the thing that's going to go on sale June, it's going to go on sale June the 26th. Had to go to the printer today.
Yeah.
That's 2 months. So, or no, 1 month.
That's 1 month. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 1 month. So, and you know what all that is? It's logistics. It's trucking those things between here and the main distribution center, and then the distribution centers to the stores. That's all it is transportation.
Yeah. And I think, to give people a sense, I think my deadline for getting my piece in was a month ago.
Right. So it's which is why you can't, be necessarily a news heavy thing. Right. But I will toot my own horn a little bit and say, to be able to put 5 magazines out with 5 exclusive reveals on the cover in this day and age, not too shabby.
So what I'll say is I'm a big proponent of anything that helps to further humanize the process of this stuff getting made. You know, the toys, the action figures, movies, comics, whatever. There's so much criticism of the end product and this idea that it was just created by some faceless corporation, and you can hurl whatever kinds of insults and negativity and toxicity at it that you want. And it's something that, you know, you have to remind people like, hey, you know, an actual person sculpted this thing. Yeah. And they're probably seeing the awful things that you're saying about it. And they didn't do this on purpose, you know, like they set out to do their best and to make a good thing. And I think interviews with people like Phil Ramirez and that sort of thing really puts a face and a name on that thing. Yeah. I know that, you know, Paul Harding is constantly out there saying like, we can credit sculptors. We can say who put, you know, who did this thing. It helps us. It helps you. It helps people who are buying things. Like there doesn't have to be all this secrecy about who worked on these things. Right. It doesn't have to just say Hasbro. You know, I appreciate that a company like NECA puts like everybody who worked on it. Yeah. You know, and back, you know, we don't do figure reviews as much as we used to, but when we did, you know, that was one of my main rules was like, remember that people worked on this. Like people worked on this, individuals. And to, you know, try to be critical. You can say negative things, but you can still keep it, you know, civil. Just the kinds of things that people say, it's ridiculous. And I think Toycollectr can play a role in that.
Yeah, and some of that, you know, is not on the sculptor. It's a lot of that detail gets totally lost in production. Totally lost. I mean, if you have the original sculpt, even the 3D, if it's a 3D model on your computer versus the end product, I mean, holy cow. It's day and night sometimes, you know, where something starts and where something ends. But, you know, at the end of the day, we want to be able to, you know, showcase a lot of these guys who've done the work. And, you know, it's the same thing I ran across with the books you run across with here is that, you know, you start losing these guys. I mean, you know, again, I said it a million times. If you were 30 making toys in the 80s, you're 70 now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, as we're recording this, it's Mark Boudreau just passed away the other day. And you had I think it was in issue 3. You had a
thing about him needing a
talking about his health conditions.
So yeah, we actually in issue 6, you'll see the obit for him.
Yeah.
And Frank Kozik.
Right. So,
it's you know, there's a lot of stories lost between those two people right there.
Exactly. Yeah. And any effort that can be made to get some of those stories out sooner rather than later is all good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I want to really quick, because you mentioned it really in passing, but I want to be able to show something.
Sure.
You talk about exclusive action figures. This is it.
Oh, is that
our first one? This is our
mail away.
This is our mail away. Yeah.
Nice.
We got
and so the deal here was, I think it was issues 1, 2, and 3. There was a coupon that you didn't have to cut out.
Yeah. Oh boy, that was awful.
You could make your own coupon.
Yeah. People were just like, I am not cutting up this magazine. Okay.
Yeah. I love it. It's funny. It's funny because it speaks to exactly the sort of heart of thing that you wanted to get at with the magazine to begin with, was the collectible nature and tapping into that sensibility. And it's great to know that people were being so precious about it that they didn't even want to cut the stupid coupon out.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm over here bargaining. Back in my day, we had to destroy the toy in order to get, in order to get
it's great.
Get the mail.
Love the passion.
Yeah. So this is this is Special Ops Santa.
Special Ops Santa. So that's Fresh Monkey Fiction, right?
Yeah. So Bill Murphy and me, we got together and said, you know, hey, maybe we could do a little mail away and make it fun, like the old times, and said, well, okay, what do you have in mind? And so we started going through. You know, he's done a really great job with Eagle Force, bringing that back. And so we went through, or I went through, and basically he said, here are all the Eagle Force parts. Make a figure. And so I found the biker guy with the do-rag and that big beard and sunglasses. And then I started messing around with, and this is actually, maybe it was a little bit before or right during when he was doing Naughty and Nice too.
Yep.
So because this has been in the works for a while. So I was like, well, maybe we can make a 3 3/4 inch Santa. So we gave him a flak jacket and made him look a little bigger than he actually was going to be. But yeah, really a lot of fun to put together, and I hope people enjoy it when they get it. Good response to it, actually.
Yeah, it's tough because even 1/18 in general is, you know,
all kinds of like hands and different weapons.
Oh yeah, Fresh Monkey Fiction figures are great. I have a bunch of Eagle Force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also another little surprise in the box that I'm not going to show you, but you'll see it people will see it when they get it.
Good tease. I love it.
Yeah.
But so those have been shipping for a couple months now, or
no? These will be shipping towards the end of the year.
Oh, okay. So they haven't shipped yet. Okay.
Yes, they haven't shipped yet. We just got finished taking all the entries. I think the deadline was the end of April. And then, so now it's in manufacturing. So it should be here, hopefully, sometime over the summer. And then we'll get them out to everyone. And any extra, I'm guessing, will end up at shows with me.
Excellent. Excellent.
And we are already working on our second one.
Oh, okay. Good. Good. You heard it here first.
not with Bill. We're working with somebody else.
Excellent.
But we're working on our second mail away, and I promise not to make you cut anything out this time. We're going to do it. Just give me money, I give you figure. It's one of those things.
Yeah, you can have like an online registration form or
right,
something.
We're going to make it really simple.
Pay the bill, send the figure. You know how it works. Excellent. Well, Blake, thank you very much for joining me here today in the Secret Lounge. Please, everyone, make sure you check out Blake on social media. I know you're Toycollectr on Instagram, Toycollectr Mag on Twitter. Remember to leave out the O at the end. It's just straight from the T to the R.
Right.
We'll put links down in the description below for all that stuff. Subscribe to Toycollectr Magazine if you haven't already, for sure. You can go buy his books now, whether it's Toys of Time Forgot or Toycollectr Magazine. You can get those at Big Bad Toy Store. They're all in stock right now as of this video. So definitely check all that stuff out. Do you have any other social media stuff that you?
I think you covered it. Oh, well, Facebook is facebook.com.
Oh, right. I always forget Facebook because I haven't used Facebook since like 2020.
Yeah, it's tough. I'm not a big fan of social media, but I have to be there. So
yeah, of course. All right, just search for Toycollectr on Facebook. You'll find it.
It'll be there.
As always, guests of the Secret Lounge earn lounge bucks with every appearance they make. Lounge bucks are redeemable in the Secret Lounge gift shop. Please note that the Secret Lounge gift shop is taking previous guest feedback seriously and will be expanding inventory beyond mustache combs and branded cheese graters. Blake, once again, thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Dan.